It was your childhood dream to become a chef. You matriculated from Pretoria Boys High and then pursued a journey toward becoming Chef Shane Sauvage. Tell us how this journey began to become the great success that it is today.
Uh, Obviously, grew up in Pretoria Boys High. Spent quite a bit of time down in the coast. My mom comes from the Seychelles. My father's um, French, and basically rich culinary roots. So I always wanted to cook from a very young age. It was what was one of my passions. If you looked for me, I was always in the kitchen with my aunties or with my mom helping out. And my parents used to entertain a lot. So from a very early age, I'd help my mom set the table. She's having special guests, put down all the like special little serviette foldings and set up the different glasses for different courses. So that was something that was just part of me from very young. Then I also had an aunt and uncle that were in the restaurant business. I got to spend one school holiday with them. And I was in about standard 5 going to standard 6. And I was just convinced that's what I wanted to do. So about the age of standard 7, I got my first job in the restaurant. A little bit earlier than that, standard 6, late standard 6. Got involved in the restaurant business. The restaurant business in those days didn't matter what age you were. If you looked old enough, you could work behind the bar. You could work pretty much anywhere. And I started going through my paces in the restaurant industry. Um, uh, I was already sort of assisting to manage in restaurants when I was 17, already
Oh,
16,
wow, that's
around there.
incredible.
Just very passionate. So I had a Greek employer at the time he was very keen on me. We got on very well. So he taught me basically everything he knew. The next step was for me to start in the kitchen. So I did a bit of basic training in the kitchen there. It was a really lovely little restaurant back in Pretoria days. And he had a group of restaurants. So there was Italian restaurant, Greek. So I did a little bit of a trip around. Then I was called up into the army. I got thrown into the School of Catering, worked in the School of Catering. Incredible experience. I could have done away with the army stuff, but the actual cooking things were fantastic. I worked with the South African
The
Blacks.
army was compulsory those days, right?
Yes, it was compulsory. Look, it was a whole other time, and
Mhm.
for me, I was never into politics. I didn't even understand. There was so much restriction of media and that kind of thing. No one really knew what was going on. We were just told we had to go, whether you like it or not. I was 17. I was thrown into the army. I had my 18th birthday in army barracks. It was really unpleasant.
Wow.
And anyway, I've always been the kind of person who'll try and make something positive out of every situation.
Well, Shane, isn't
So
it amazing that we both come from such different worlds? I mean, completely different worlds, and yet we were born in the
quite
same
right.
country. Although
Yes, no, of course.
your dad has French heritage, and your mom is from the Seychelles, which I think is amazing,
That's
and we shall talk more about that. But just look at that. My great grandparents were from India, and
yes.
they came to the country, and it was very sad. Our family's history is very sad because apparently when my great grandparents left to visit relatives, there was a law passed where they couldn't come back to the country. And
Gosh.
so my grandfather and his young siblings, he was a kid himself, they were left to the care of relatives. So that's my history. I come from much pain
Sure.
and started long before I came into the
Yeah.
picture. So he made something
Yeah.
of his life, and one thing our family has taught us, and that's a strong heritage as well, of, loving people. And that,
Yes.
I
Of
think,
course.
for me, that's the
Yes.
key note of the spirit of Ubuntu, which I found in your restaurant. I found in your ethos, in how you serve the food, how you treat your guests, and how I always come back just feeling like I'm at home at the La
Thank
Pentola.
you. Thank you for that. It's supposed to be like that. I mean, my brand has been now going for 28 years.
Wow.
From the inception of the New South Africa, literally was 1995 that we managed to open our doors. And from there, we've always believed in skills development, uplifting people, and then also providing them security within our work environment. So I've had retiring chefs retiring out of the business.
Wow.
My head chef was a lady when we started with working with Joanna Maluleka.
Uh-huh.
She 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 would phone to place orders, and suppliers would not want to take an order from her. And I'd say, either you order from my chef or I don't do business with you. You know, so we did grow up in very difficult times, especially in Pretoria itself, very conservative area.
Yes.
And as we had changes, I mean, there were times, if you want to talk politically for a moment, we had times where I was bringing African bands and friends in. My wife and I are very passionate drummers, that kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
And we were bringing bands in from Johannesburg to come and play. We got death threats. We got threatened the restaurant would get burnt down. And
In a sense, you're not just a chef, you're also a food activist in the way you've done your life and
yeah,
you've helped
in a
others.
way,
Yeah.
that gives me goosebumps for someone to actually say that. But it was always our intention,
Food
you know.
activist. I mean, I think I'm the first
We
person in the world to use that term, but food
I
activist.
think you
Yes.
might be.
There you
You
go,
know,
Shane.
I've been through quite a few firsts in my career, but to be honest, I think in a way, yeah, yes, we were, and I didn't understand why there was a separation. We didn't understand this. Only later did we
Mhm.
find out the history, because I mean, everything was so hidden from us.
That's it.
And
And so, Shane, you spoke about Janet. Janet,
yes, it's the
she
love of my life.
the love of your life, your wife and the love of your life, and you both have these three wonderful children, Falcon, whom we've spoken about, Willow and Marina. How do they love and support your journey as you live out your purpose as a world-renowned chef and restaurateur?
Well, look, my eldest two children, obviously Falcon, as you mentioned, works in the restaurant with us, and my daughter Willow also helps in the restaurant.
Mhm.
She's an artist. She's got a lot of the wild side of the Sauvage in her, and absolutely dynamic little personality. And she works in the restaurant with us, also very enthusiastic. Marina loves to cook.
Mhm.
I see there's in her blood, there's that, you know, obviously rich cultural heritage from Janet's side, being South African born, but from Italian parents.
Oh,
So,
wow.
you know, she teaches her how to
What a
bake and all
wonderful
sorts of things. So, a
blend.
very passionate little girl about food. And she was my Hermanus baby. So, when we moved down,
Wow.
we took the long walk to freedom. We always wanted to get to the Cape.
Uh-huh.
Eventually, we got the opportunity to come down. And you know, when we were busy sort of, I was working on a wine estate for the first time in my life. I wasn't working in the evenings,
Uh-huh.
so the home fire started burning even stronger. And then next minute Janet says, well, I'm pregnant. And I was like, okay. I didn't know
Lovely.
that could happen from surfing, bodyboarding, and walks on the beach, but
Uh-huh.
yeah. And then Marina was born, and she's an absolute blessing. Actually, the day Marina was born,
Mhm.
uh it was a Father's Day in yeah, it was the we've been 11 years open in Hermanus, and that Father's Day she was born.
Mhm.
Um, and I walked, we had a home birth, and when I'm getting,
Wow.
yeah, assisting a midwife, I was with the midwife, and obviously Marina's born at home. All three children are home births.
Mhm.
And my wife is very alternative when it comes to that kind of thing.
I
She
was born
always
at
looks for
home
the,
as well,
you know,
a
yeah,
while
well, you
ago.
see, you're lovely, and this is it's a special something about being born at home. You don't get those bright lights first thing when you open your eyes, you know, and anyway, so stepping out of that, I went straight into a fully booked Father's Day lunch. So the birth only happened. Marina arrived. We were awake all night. Obviously, Marina only arrived early hours of the morning,
Mhm.
and then walked into a fully booked Father's Day lunch. So every year, Father's Day, I do a 5-course food and wine pairing, and I tell this story just to share with people my beautiful memory of Father's Day and how it changed in this gift of Marina.
Wonderful.
So yeah, so without the family, there is no La Pentola, you know.
Nelson Mandela said that our rich and varied cultural heritage has a profound power to help build our nation. How does this statement by the first president of our country's democracy resonate with your work as a world-class chef in South Africa?
On a cultural melting pot, yes, that's what we became, especially in those early years in our new country. A lot of people didn't know how to see one another, didn't know how to, communicate. So I was one of the first people that had, African people sitting with Indian people, with Afrikaans people, with foreigners coming to try and help it put it all together. And it was a cultural melting pot where people managed to communicate. There was different genres of music that people have never heard about, and around the food and around the table, everyone managed to communicate, and everything blossomed. So yeah, very much blessed. And if you ever have an opportunity to look at my first book, Edge of Fusion, there is a lot of that in the book, and a few of the little stories and so on and so forth. Yeah.
And Falcon was also a wonderful host, I have to
Yeah,
say.
he's awesome, man. I enjoy working with my son a lot. It's very special to have family in the business,
It is. I must say, you did very well. Janet and you have done excellently in bringing up your son so well, and he's got such a presence. To deal with people on that level, it takes something, and he's so young. He's got a long way to go. He's doing it right already, so you can see he has a good pathway. You've created that.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you.